Hey everyone, this is Rob from 99 Ways Crypto and welcome back to the channel. So the EMP protocol is designed essentially to operate as an infinite money loop. And in order to take advantage of that infinite money loop, you need to be well balanced across the protocol. And if you're not, you're missing out on that opportunity. So if you're interested in understanding what some of the vulnerabilities are of not being quite balanced in EMP, then this is probably the video for you. So in this video, we're going to take a deep dive in looking at what is a balanced EMP, and if you are out of balance, how can you rectify that? And I'll give you some solutions that will help you balance or properly allocate your funds across the EMP platform. Before we get into this video, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to a few people who have helped along the way to create the content of this video. In order to get the facts correct for this video, I reached out to a number of community members of EMP. So thanks to each of these people. Firstly, Joe PV Trader of Discord, and Charlie, best version of yourself, a very helpful guy, always willing to help. And this is the great thing about the EMP protocol, the community is unbelievable. I'd like to give thanks and credit to XX Maverick for his awesome 80/20 farming tokenomics PowerPoint screenshot, which you'll see in the video. And last but not least, the man himself, AJ, I reached out to him and he basically told me my content was on the right track. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's kick off. So I guess the first question that really comes to mind is, what do we really mean by balance? Well, I'm talking about the investment ratios in either your farm versus the boardroom. So in simple terms, it's how much you have invested in the boardroom versus what you've got invested in the actual farms. And sometimes that comes down to the very first decision that you either made or you're going to make when you enter the protocol. And the question would be, do I buy eShare or EMP off the market upon entry? And unfortunately, if you've misunderstood this fundamental at the time of entry, the chances are that you're going to be out of balance for long-term success in the protocol. But the great news is it's easily fixable. Looking at the market prices today, which I can tell you have dropped down significantly, it would really be easy just to dive right in and buy eShares and stick them in the boardroom. And that would be a big mistake, and let me take the time to now tell you why. So if you're just in the boardroom printing EMP, then you're going to miss out on the circular system that has been created within EMP, otherwise known as the infinite money loop. Let me just further explain that concept. The infinite money loop is when you're able to put funds into the system, and then it basically is producing other assets which circle back around and keep you growing. Right? That's a simple answer. I'll give you an example. If you've got all your investment just in the boardroom, your investment will only pay out when we're above peg. And furthermore, you'd really only be producing EMP tokens. In order for you to profit in the protocol, you would then need to sell off your EMP tokens on the open market, which would hurt the protocol and hurt you in the long run. One other thing with that strategy is when you sell EMP, it further pushes the twat below peg, which will contribute to the boardroom not printing at all, which means that your investment is now doing nothing. In fact, you're no longer earning. So obviously that is not healthy for the protocol or you. I should also point out here that you would have the same problems that I just pointed out if you also just entered directly into the nodes. And again, the reason it's not a great strategy is because that you would only have the ability to produce EMP. Again, in order to profit from nodes, the same as the boardroom, you would actually have to sell off your EMP. So what is the solution to all these issues by being too heavily into the boardroom or just nodes? So one, simply don't enter the protocol that way. Don't just buy eShares and ape into the boardroom or just straight up buy a node. If you want to be a good actor and you want to get the most out of EMP, then don't just go ape in and buy eShare and stuff it into the boardroom, okay? And don't just go and buy a node, because yes, you can profit from it, but it doesn't help the protocol grow further, and it won't help you grow further. Number two, if you've entered the protocol in this manner by going directly into the boardroom, it's as simple as reallocating some of your investment out of the boardroom and back over to the farms. And this will give you a much better balance across the platform and allow you to interact with the many other contracts that have passive income opportunities. The third thing I suggest in trying to rectify this situation is go to the EMP Academy and take the EMP Academy and take it once, twice, three times, whatever it takes for it to sink in the strategy that you need in order to maximize your profits in this protocol. The fourth tip I have is where I've learned most of the lessons that have improved my position in the protocol, and that is to attend the daily AMAs. I probably attend about 5 or 6 a week. They're sharing so much information here. It will really assist you in understanding this protocol a lot better, and you really will be doing yourself a favor by doing that. And not only you're doing yourself a favor, but you're doing everybody a favor, because the more educated we are in how this system works, the more successful it will be and the more sustainable this protocol will be long term. I highly recommend just listening in. You'll learn and you'll pick up heaps from the team, but not only just the team that are conducting the AMAs you'll learn from, but you'll learn from the people who are calling in and asking questions, because they're probably in a similar situation to you. So it's very useful. And the last thing I'll say, tip number 5, is to use the boardroom and the nodes. So I'm not saying don't use them, but use them responsibly, whereby you're only admitting what you need to pair up for fresh LP. So in other words, you're only producing what EMP you need to pair up to go back into the system. But I'll also say this, there's nothing wrong with stacking EMP tokens in your wallet, as long as you've got good intentions what you're going to do with those EMP tokens. Look, who knows what utility EMP will have going forward in the future. The EMP team, as we've seen, is so creative with their use cases of the EMP token that I personally stack a few away as well. So I'm working towards a balance where I'm emitting enough EMP tokens to obviously keep on growing my position by pairing up with ETH, but I'm also stacking some EMP tokens away in my wallet for a rainy day. So now that we've discussed that, I probably wanted to talk about some of the mistakes I made early, which might be of assistance to you as well. So here's the mistake I made. I only entered with a very small deposit of $1,000. And after reading the white paper, I interpreted the 80-20 rule as you purchase 80% of those funds to pair up as LP, and 20% you purchase eShare and you put that straight in the boardroom. So I purchased 20% ETH, 20% EMP token, and I paired them up. Then I purchased 20% eShare and I purchased 20% BNB and I paired that up, which gave me a total of 80% in the farms. And at this point, I've done the right thing. And then I went on to purchase another 20% of eShare and I put that directly in the boardroom. So that was my understanding at the time of how to enter the protocol. But here's the mistake I made from that point. Firstly, I was focused on the monetary value of everything that was earned, and I also had a very short-term mindset. By focusing on the money value, the boardroom seemed more lucrative than a little payout that I was getting from the farms. So all the eShare emissions I was getting from the farms I was putting straight into the boardroom, and I was growing the boardroom and I'm printing EMP. And I'd been doing that for a number of months. As a result, my EMP emissions were far outweighing my eShare emissions. So this is how I became unbalanced. So I was growing more EMP and the eShare wasn't growing as quick. So therefore I couldn't sell off my eShares to match up with the EMP I had, so I ended up stacking it. So obviously I needed to make a change. And why? Because the protocol encourages us to sell off our eShare to take profit and sell off our eShare to buy more fresh ETH and bringing more fresh capital to the protocol. Now look, it took me a really long time to understand the concept of farming eShares is the key to tapping into the infinite money loop and how it is critical to sustain long-term growth within the protocol. And again, I picked this up by attending the daily AMAs, and this is why I highly recommend you attend them. But for me, sometimes things take a bit of time to sink in. But I do love this saying that if you give a person an EMP token, they can eat for the day. But if you teach them how to farm eShares, they'll eat for a lifetime. I love that. Being a fisherman. So in a nutshell, if you've got too much invested directly in the boardroom, then you're most likely emitting too many EMP tokens that you can manage. If you've been around for a while, you'd be aware that to keep the EMP protocol healthy, the team do not recommend you sell the EMP for profit. Now we've gone through that, now let's quickly take a look at some of the pros and cons of being balanced and or not balanced or properly allocated within the protocol. Okay, so if we look at this slide that I've created here, we've got the pros and the cons of being balanced or out of balance. Okay, so firstly, you have the ability to tap into that infinite money loop, which I discussed previously in the video. So you're essentially able to tap into that infinite money loop, remembering if you're just heavily based in the boardroom, you basically just have to sell EMP and you can take profit and that's the end of it. You're not buying back into the system. Where if you obviously are more balanced, you're able to print E-shares, you're able to sell those off for fresh ETH and then take the EMP that you are earning from that 20% that you should have of your allocated funds in the boardroom or if you've got nodes, and you can pair that together. So that's how you're tapping in. So by basically that way you're able to keep on just printing money around and around and around. The second one is, which is again taking profit responsibly. So what we're talking about there is if you're correctly balanced, that would mean that you've got plenty of ability to create E-shares within the system, and you can sell those E-shares off for whatever you like, and it does not, when you sell an E-share, it does not hurt the protocol in any shape or form. I think it's Jesse often says this at the AMAs. What's good for you to do in the protocol is usually good for the protocol. There you go. There, another nugget that you will get if you listen to the AMAs. The third thing is you can leverage the yields to improve your position. And again, that sort of goes back to the infinite money loop. So you're able to sell off the E-shares and you're able to create yields and improve your position by selling those E-shares and bringing it back by pairing up and just continuing that loop over and over and over. So it's a really good play if you can get yourself into that position. Again, the opportunity to create fresh capital again comes through the farms and comes through E-share. So you obviously wanted to be doing that. Number 5, less reliance on the boardroom printing. What I've found in the protocol is now I'm not relying on the boardroom to print, and I'm not as disappointed when it doesn't print, which is really good. That's a good position to be in. So I've been able to achieve that by using nodes. So the EMP that I did produce in the boardroom, I was able to buy a couple of nodes, and of course they emit EMP at a slower rate depending on how many nodes you obviously have, but it's enough to sustain me. So if the boardroom doesn't print, I no longer have to worry about it at all, because I can still take the EMP emissions from the nodes that I have created and then pair them with fresh ETH when I sell off my E-shares from the farms. So therefore, I'm able to tap into that infinite money loop we're talking about. And it's a great feeling not have to stress out about the boardroom printing. But let me give you another tip, and that is to focus your attention not so much on the monetary value, but focus your attention on your emissions. So meaning I track how many emissions I get per week, and I'm making sure that keeps on growing. So for example, I understand how much E-share, I'm not worried about how much money it's printing week to week. What I'm worried about is if my emissions of E-shares are still growing. That's what I focus on, and it's so much more satisfying when you look at it that way. And number 6, it deepens the overall liquidity pool. So obviously, if you're acting in an appropriate way, and you're able to you're balanced correctly, as I said, it all comes back to being able to use those emissions from the farms. And if you've got the ability to obviously pair up more liquidity pool and put that back into the system, then it deepens the overall liquidity pool. And the thing to remember about that is, does that really help you? Yeah, well, it does, because you know why? It's because the deeper the liquidity pools, the more trust that the big whales might have, and eventually companies. Like you can see, there's been a number of partnerships of people directly buying into EMP through the treasury, still buying EMP assets, but buying in because of the trust that's been built, because it's got a large liquidity pool if you compare them to the other forks that are out there. The EMP liquidity pool is actually bigger than Tomb itself, for example. So the bigger the liquidity pool, the more trust people have, the more people will put volume into the system, which creates sustainability long term. And that's what you want from a protocol. Anyway, that's what I want from a protocol. It does help you. So the more you feed back into the system, the more opportunities there are for other people to come in. The bigger it gets, the more sustainable it is. So that's the 6 that I've come up with anyway. If you can think of any more, and I hope you do, I would love for you to comment below and share your pros and cons with us. That would be fantastic. So if you can think any more, let me know. Yeah, one last pro before I move on, which came from Charlie, best version of yourself, on Discord, was that he made a very good point that too much eShare is better than too much EMP, and I totally agree, because it gives you more flexibility throughout the protocol. Yep, so thanks for that, Charlie. All right, so let's now move on to the cons. As we talked about, a pro that you can tap into the infinite money loop. The negative side of this is that you cannot tap into the infinite money loop, and that is because, as I explained a little bit earlier, when you're only printing EMP, your only option is to sell it off, and once you sell it off, that's it. You know, you've got your eShares still sitting there, and then you're waiting for the boardroom to be above peg to print and to actually profit. And if everybody else is doing that same strategy, then the protocol just will not work. You're missing that infinite money loop. The second one here is that you're forced to sell EMP in order to profit. And as Charlie puts it, you're shooting yourself right in the foot. And number 3 is that you start to limit your opportunities to interact with other parts of the protocol. So again, as we sort of touched on this a bit earlier, you're because you're only able to produce EMP, you're not able to, basically enter the detonator, for example, because you're not producing eShare to be able to buy fresh ETH. You would have to, you bring in your own capital to do that. You're limiting your opportunities to interact with any other parts of the protocol. So number 4 is in order to continue to grow your bag, essentially you have to bring in your own fresh capital, and that is obviously a negative. Where if you're farming it in eShare, you can sell it off to your heart's content, and you're able to keep continuously growing in the protocol. Now comes the part where like we all do, none of this is financial advice. You got to do your own research. Make sure you make your decisions that are right for you. I'm not a financial advisor. Obviously, I'm a guy on YouTube just documenting my journey and hoping that helps other people in terms of learning the protocol and a little bit of entertainment potentially. I don't know if you find me entertaining, maybe not. Whatever. And this would be the part where I'd probably normally tell you to subscribe. But let me just tell you why it's important that you subscribe. Because, content creators put a lot of time and effort and hours into creating, and time and effort that it takes to edit, the time and effort to think of the concept that you're going to do, be constantly thinking about a concept that's going to help people. And small creators like myself, if they're not seeing the reward for the effort, then eventually they end up obviously moving on to other things. In actual fact, I could spend my time playing guitar over the back here and getting better at that than instead of making videos. But anyway, the point of this is that essentially we're here to spread the word and share this information to people. And how does that benefit you? Well, it does benefit you because the more people who this video reaches out to, the more likely they are to invest. And as we talked about, growing the overall liquidity pool is good for everybody, and it's good for your investment. So if everybody starts pulling their money out of this protocol, then it's done and dusted. So there's an opportunity here for people to keep growing. There's a great opportunity here for people to do really well with this protocol, but we've got to be able to stick together as a community and be able to get the word out there. So the more people we get in front of, the better it is for you in the long run, because this protocol will grow bigger. So we're just a small part of that, liking and subscribing to channels and supporting the people who put time and effort in, whether it be on Twitter and, you know, putting tweets out there, or whether it's following people who are, you know, helping push this protocol on Twitter or any of the platforms. You know, just you can do your part. I think Bill Gates from the AMAs, one of his things is when are you going to help this protocol? What can you do? You don't have to sit here and make videos like me. You can simply just give me a thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel. You can share it. You can go on Twitter and find somebody who's created a GIF or whatever and give it a thumbs up. Share it, tweet it out. We're from all parts of the world, and this is one of the greatest things about EMP is the community is so strong and they're so positive and they're so helpful. So yeah, it's just a fantastic place to be, and I'm happy to be here. Long story, but that's why you should hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. We're making plenty more videos. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I hope you got something out of this. If you need a little bit of advice on balancing up, you can reach out to me. I'm happy to help out where I can. If not, join the AMAs, ask the questions, educate yourself, and yeah, see you around. Thanks for watching. Rob out. See you in the next one.